Imagine it's the middle of January. You wake up, and your house is freezing. The power is out. Your heater doesn't work. Your phone is dead. The roads are buried under snow. And the nearest grocery store? It doesn't exist. In fact, nothing exists. No supermarkets. No warm jackets. No hot showers. No weather forecasts. No emergency services. No houses. Just you, a few family members, and a world that seems determined to freeze you to death. For most modern people, this would be a nightmare. For ancient humans, it was called winter. And somehow, against all odds, they survived it. Not once, not twice, but for thousands of years. Which is honestly kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Because ancient humans weren't superhuman. They didn't have magical powers. They weren't immune to the cold. They got hungry. They got sick. They got scared. Just like us. So how exactly did they survive some of the harshest winters in human history? Well, the first thing to understand is that winter wasn't just uncomfortable. It was deadly. Today, when it's cold outside, most of us simply stay indoors. Maybe we complain. Maybe we wrap ourselves in a blanket. Maybe we make a hot drink and watch videos online. Ancient humans didn't have that option. When winter arrived, the entire world changed. Plants disappeared. Rivers froze. Food became harder to find. Animals migrated away. Every day became a struggle to stay alive. And unlike today, there was no guarantee things would get better anytime soon. A bad winter could last for months. Imagine opening your refrigerator and finding it completely empty. Now imagine that every refrigerator within 1,000 miles is also empty. That's what winter could feel like. Food became one of the biggest problems. But strangely enough, it wasn't the biggest. The biggest problem was something even more basic. Heat. Because humans are actually pretty terrible at dealing with cold weather. We don't have thick fur. We can't hibernate. We aren't built like polar bears. Take away modern technology and most of us would be in serious trouble. Ancient humans knew this, which is why one of the most important discoveries in human history wasn't farming. It wasn't the wheel. It wasn't metal tools. It was fire. Fire changed everything. Today, a campfire feels cozy. Back then, it was life support. That little pile of burning wood provided warmth, light, protection, and the ability to cook food. Without fire, surviving winter became dramatically harder. In some cases, it became nearly impossible. Imagine sitting inside a dark cave while a snowstorm rages outside. The wind howls through the entrance. Temperatures continue dropping. The only thing standing between your family and freezing to death is a small fire. Now imagine accidentally letting it go out. Suddenly, that tiny flame becomes the most valuable thing on Earth. Many ancient groups worked incredibly hard to keep fires burning continuously, because starting a new fire wasn't easy. Today, if you want fire, you grab a lighter. Ancient humans didn't have that luxury. Creating fire could take time, energy, patience. And in freezing conditions, those were things you couldn't always afford to lose. But even with fire, humans still had another problem. Clothing. Or more specifically, the lack of it. Modern winter clothing is honestly amazing. Waterproof jackets, thermal layers, insulated boots. Ancient humans had none of those things. Instead, they had animals. And surprisingly, animals solved a lot of problems. The same creatures they hunted for food also became winter equipment. Animal hides became coats. Fur became insulation. Leather became footwear. Sinew became thread. Bones became tools. Nothing was wasted. Imagine successfully hunting a large animal. First, it feeds your family. Then, its hide keeps you warm. Then, its bones help you make tools. One successful hunt could improve your chances of survival for weeks or even months. In a strange way, ancient humans wore their dinner. And honestly, that was a pretty smart system. But surviving winter wasn't just about staying warm. Humans also needed food. Lots of it. The problem was that winter made food incredibly difficult to find. Plants stopped growing. Fruits disappeared. Many animals migrated elsewhere. Some animals became harder to track in deep snow. So ancient humans had to think ahead. And this is where many people underestimate them. We sometimes imagine prehistoric humans as people who simply wandered around reacting to whatever happened. In reality, many groups planned far into the future. Summer wasn't just summer. It was preparation season. Every successful hunt mattered. Every edible plant mattered. Every extra piece of food mattered. Because winter was coming. And winter didn't care whether you were ready or not. Some groups dried meat. Others stored food. Others followed migration routes they had learned over generations. Knowledge became one of humanity's greatest survival tools. In fact, knowledge may have been even more important than strength. Think about it. A mammoth is stronger than a human. A bear is stronger than a human. A human standing alone isn't particularly impressive. But humans had something special. They shared information. One generation learned something. Then they passed it on. And the next generation started where the previous one left off. Over thousands of years, that knowledge became incredibly powerful. People learned which shelters worked best, which clothing worked best, which hunting strategies worked best, which mistakes got people killed. Every lesson increased their chances of survival. And perhaps the most important lesson of all was this: don't face winter alone. Because one human struggling against winter had a difficult task. A group had a much better chance. One person could gather firewood. Another could repair clothing. Another could watch children. Another could hunt. Humans survived because they cooperated better than almost any other animal on Earth. And that cooperation helped them overcome challenges that would have been impossible alone. The truth is, ancient humans didn't survive deadly winters because they were fearless. They survived because they adapted. Again and again. When conditions changed, they changed. When food became scarce, they found new solutions. When old strategies stopped working, they invented better ones. And over time, that ability to adapt became humanity's greatest superpower. Because in the battle between humans and winter, humans weren't stronger. They weren't faster. They weren't tougher. They were simply better at solving problems. And that's why we're here today. Every person alive is descended from people who managed to beat winter, generation after generation, against impossible odds. And honestly, that's pretty incredible.